Making money like a mint, laying in my ice like shrimp. Mint condition that I'm in, coming with the freshness.
Alright, I figured out how I want to exactly put furring strips up down on these lower quarter panels on both sides. So I'm going to rip those furring strips out of 1/2-inch birch plywood, and I've created kind of this handy dandy guide to what I need. Have most of it figured out. Some areas I'm gonna have to double up, but yeah, let's start ripping some wood. Alright, I just finished ripping a bunch of furring strips for the walls and the ceiling, and now I'm starting to figure out how I'm actually going to attach those furring strips to the van. So a lot of people use just like stainless steel self-tapping screws specifically for metal, and I think that's totally fine if that's what you want to do. I'm a little more worried about things pulling out, especially from vibration and all that stuff, being it is in a van. So I'm going to be using something called a Crossnut or a Plusnut, and the ones I bought are already pre-bulbed. I will be using the 1/4-20 size and then the 1032. And wanted to bring this up because a lot of people create their own like DIY Plusnut tool, and I had a lot of trouble making that work, specifically with the fine threaded bolts. So I ended up purchasing the Astro 1450, and so far this thing has been amazing. I blasted like 40 or 50 Plusnuts in the van in like maybe 20 minutes. So it's well worth the money. You can always sell it when you're done, but I think it's worth your time to just buy this if you're going to put more than like 5 in your van. So I'm going to finish putting the rest of the Plusnuts in, and then we'll start attaching the furring strips. Alright, using the Astro 1450 is pretty easy. Basically you have this spread out as far as possible, and then you thread your Plusnut onto it, and then you want to put it into your hole like this. So we'll do this top one, squeeze, and then open it back up, retighten it all the way until you're tight. Give it another squeeze, and you can tell, luckily up here you can feel if it's already spread out all the way, and it's probably pretty solid, but I'm gonna just give it a little extra. And you don't want to pull it too tight, but just tight enough, and you'll be able to tell after a few. And you basically have to unscrew this by hand, but I'm just using power drill to get it out, just to make my life a little easier. So we're gonna finish up the rest of these up here. There, now I have 4 Plusnuts, and I did have to drill those out myself. The rest of the van had those holes in the upper spot, so I'll be attaching my uppers to, but I had to drill these out myself. Alright, I was successfully able to put my furring strips with Crossnuts down on this half of the van and the uppers, and I'm starting to work on this panel now. And I wanted to share my secret with putting up the blind fasteners. So I've seen people use what they call hanger bolts inside the Crossnut, and then you would just place your wood up, press it, and you'd have a mark. I feel like that's not accurate enough, given that there is that little bit of space with the hanger. So what I've done is cut strips of craft paper the same size as the wood I'm going to mount. And then what I'll actually do is tape this up to wherever I need it to go, and then I'll show you, but basically take a pencil and color over the Crossnut, and what you end up with is a nice template of where you need to drill. So you can basically tape this up, take your piece of furring strip, and then tape that piece of paper to this wood, and then you'll have it in the exact spot you need it, and then you just drill out your wood. So let's quickly do one.
Chasing a dream, I don't know what sleep is. I got a queen, she lit me the evening. She ripe like a peach and she snapped me the snippet. We well overdue for that link up in person. Text me to fall through its murder, she wrote it. Still up with courage of doing a service. Pull up to the crib, I'm equipped with the brush strokes. Cutthroat from the low, where no love goes. Women buddy like it's been that. Wanna fuck me looking at the bills.
So now this is taped up in the approximate spot where my wood would be. But we can get it more detailed once we get the wood up. But now we're going to find where our plusnut is. So there's one right here. I keep calling them plusnuts. They might be crossnuts. I'm not totally sure.
I came from the cold, used to rest on the floor. I stitch up my wounds, was born a soldier. Flipping the struggle, I'm taking it worldwide.
So when you color like this, you can see the outline. It'll be a darker line, or if you flip it over, you'll actually just have like a nice line of where your holes are. So now what I'm gonna do is take tape and put it upside down so the sticky part is facing me, so I can basically wrap it onto my furring strip when I get it in the right spot. Alright, so now hopefully this stays when I move it. This might be overkill, I get it, but in the more critical spots where I wanted all my furring strips to line up a certain way, I feel like I got the best results doing it like this. Alright, so here's my furring strip. And I don't know if you can see this, but one here and one here, and we'll drill those out quick. So here's one, and then here's the next one. So this is the side of the paper that I didn't even draw on. These are just indents from tracing it with a pencil. So we're gonna drill these out.
Worldwide. Hold it down when you talk to me. Say it is what it's supposed to be.
Alright, so now we have our furring strip with the appropriate holes, and hopefully this guy fits up here. Alright, so if I look through, probably can't see, but the holes definitely line up. So I'm going to drill out little holes here for the washers to sit, and then we're done. Phew. There's our hole for our stainless steel screw. Drops in real nice with the washer. And that's sitting under flush.
Used to be local, I'm taking it global. Sharp with the focus, she catching emotion. Treat that holistic, I give it a physics. Fuck your opinion, just did a show, only spit raw material. I'm independent, bitch, I'm in the building. Look where we built it, it feel like no ceiling, we taking it.
So there she is, nice and flush, nice and square. And it's not going anywhere. It's really strong. I might put Loctite in those threads at some point once I'm done with everything, but I'm just making sure that I have everything set before I move on to any paneling or cabinets. So hopefully that method helps you guys. It's definitely been a time saver for me. All right, another fun day of painting. So all of my furring strips are cut out, and I'm painting them with the mildew resistant primer, again because these will all be touching the bare van metal. Super productive day. Got all my furring strips primed and hung up, so I've got flat surfaces to work with for the most part. Got the ceiling furring strips up, And I'm just waiting for these last pieces to dry, and I'll show you these tomorrow. And then I'll get my front piece up and we can start moving on, I think. All right, so here's the front of the van, and a little secret, there is actually another ceiling rib under this headliner. It's the same type of rib that the rest of the ProMaster has in the ceiling. So if you remove this, you can get access to it, and you could do it a few different ways. You could cut this all the way back and attach a piece underneath here, but what I chose to do was to actually just cut little pieces out of the headliner, and then I just created some custom wood pieces that fit real nicely with that slant. Used some construction adhesive to secure it to the rib, but also put a bolt into a crossnut. So I'm gonna take my furring strip and then run it across here, and it should match up with the rest of the ceiling. So wish me luck. And here is the final furring strip in the ceiling. Super stoked with how it came out. I also made a frame to go around the vent so that it's flush with the other furring strips in the ceiling. So now I'll be able to run planks all the way across. It should be easy peasy. So super stoked with how all the furring strips came out. All right, I'm like 95% done with the furring strips in the van. So we're probably gonna call this video complete, at least for you guys. And if you have any questions about putting up furring strips, just let me know. It was a little complicated for me at first to figure out how I wanted to do it, but once I got going, it was pretty straightforward. In the next video, we'll probably be moving on to the paneling in the van and maybe the ceiling. So subscribe if you're interested in following along in the build process, and we'll see you next time. Whew.